Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Thanks for joining me. Today I thought we would revisit a stamp set that's been around for a little over a year, and that stamp set is Oceanfront. And this stamp set is a set that I call a scene builder because there are many elements that you can put together to design different scenes for your cards. Now, Stampin' Up! Carries several stamp sets that are similar that you can build different scenes with. And if you have a stamp set at home that you can build a scene with, maybe some of what I'm going to talk about today will apply to your stamp sets as well. So let's take a look at this card. And as you can see, this card has sort of an ocean feel, or maybe looks like you're at a lake, but definitely a watery. You're somewhere along the water with some sand. And this was sort of the typical card that I made with this stamp set when it first came out. And I made several. They were all different, but they all sort of looked alike. And I wanted to think about ways that I can use this stamp set for other cards and in different ways. And I really liked these three stamps here because they're great for backgrounds. So that's sort of what I did. I used them for backgrounds. First with this card, and then actually these two have the exact same background stamped. I just made them, with different colors and different images. This one's background is a little bit different, and again, it kind of has that ocean or beachy feel. And then here, we took a trip to the mountains, and I used those three stamps to create this background. So what I thought we would do is I'm going to walk through with you how I created this card, and then we'll talk about the backgrounds for the other cards. Now, first of all, this is what the background looks like after it's die cut. But I started with a piece of 3 3/4 by 5 designer series paper. And then I took my stamps. There's this one, which happens to be this one right here. I kind of call that the sky. And then this next one is right here, sort of the water. And then this one, which is this, and that's my sand for this card and for this background. So let's get started. I'm going to get some of this out of the way. I have a whole lot of different ink over here, but we're going to start off with some balmy blue, and we'll ink the stamp. This is a bigger stamp, and so I just tend to put the stamp down and ink on top of it. And I was trying to remember if I stamped off once, and I might have, so I'll just stamp off a little. And then we'll just put our ink, stamp right there, the second generation of the ink. There we go, we have some sky. And now we're going to take the water, and I need to close that ink or I'll have it everywhere. And I do not see, oh here, need to reach over. I'll get my Coastal Cabana. I got out Bermuda Bay instead. A little bit of a difference there. We'll ink this up. And we'll just line it up. And it doesn't even matter if you go overlap a little bit, that's okay. There we go. There's our water. Kind of cleaning these off as I go because we're going to need them again. Now we'll take the one I'm going to use for sand, and I have Sahara sand. ink it up. And then, and see the end that's rougher? It sort of matches up with the edge of the water. Oh, there. Do the second generation here. Stamp. And then what I did, I just kind of moved it over and stamped. And then we're going to turn our stamp. Ink again. Going to ink some over here. And the reason I'm doing this to go farther this way and farther this way is because when you put your die on here, you might end up with a big white spot over here or over here. Now, as you can see, there are a few here, but they kind of look okay. But with a big giant one down here, it wouldn't look so great. So that's why I just keep doing what I'm doing. And just keep going. We're going to go one more time, maybe two, because I want to get this over here, because it's just going to matter on where you put your die cut or your die. So then we would put our die on here, run that through the die cutting machine, and this is what we get. And then what we're going to do now is finish up our card. So we have these little birds. And those birds are actually from the Let's Set Sail set. But I thought they looked pretty cute in the sky. Get the tuxedo black here. Put them in the sky. Ooh, that one, not so great. Well, we'll just deal with him later. And then we need our grass. We have that stamp right here. And we'll need some garden green. Okay, so we'll just put this right here. And then what I did was I just turned my stamp slightly and got a lighter color of grass growing there. And then I stamped and cut out these rocks. I'm pretty much covered with ink here, aren't I? And I will put those on with some dimensionals. Which is right there. Then we have the birthday wishes, which this is from Garden Birdhouse stamp set. And we need some twine. The way I did this was I took my adhesive. As you can see, I stamped birthday wishes over to the right on this die cut. And this die cut, this is from the Stitch rectangle dies. So I'm just going to turn this over, put some adhesive. Well, maybe. Oh, there we go. It was a new one. Put some adhesive right here. I think I need some right at the very end. There we go. Put my twine right here. Start wrapping. That's once. Twice. 3. 4. I think I did 7. 5. 6. I need to get this one over just a little. 7. I think we'll go one more because I have this over this way just a little bit more than this one. So let's just add one more. take that around here. We'll trim it. Ran out of adhesive. There we go. There we go. And as you can see, I put some rhinestones there. So I have some right here. These are just the regular rhinestone basic jewels. I just colored them, and I used the Bermuda Bay Light, the Stampin' Blends, the alcohol markers. And we'll just put these right on here. And there's that. And now we're going to pop this up on dimensionals. But I'm only going to put dimensionals on this end. Then on this end, I'm going to put some adhesive. Just right over the top of the twine. Don't want to stick that on there yet, do I? Because I want to put this onto the mat. Okay, this one is not cooperating. Let me get another one. Here we go. This one should work really well. And yes, you did see I goofed up on that side. So I just flipped it over and did my background on the other side because, yay, there's two sides to the paper. Now we're going to put adhesive on this. Put it on our card front. And there's that. Now we're ready to put our greeting on just right here. And this is pretty much thick enough that's why I didn't put a dimension on it. That's why I just put the adhesive. Ooh, there, we can cover up that little messy bird. There we go. And there's the card front, and then this is the inside. I first stamped the stones right here. Then I made a mask with masking paper, fussy cut the mask. Then I took my little greenery here, my grasses. Oops, this is Old Olive. We need garden green. Getting ahead of myself. And I stamped the grass, picked it up, turned it. There is our inside panel. And there we go. And that was pretty much my classic Oceanfront card. So then I decided, no, let's do something different. And that is when I made this card right here. Sending happy thoughts for a very happy birthday. Now the way I did this was I stamped my floral image first. Then I stamped it on masking paper and cut it out. You could also just stamp it on a Post-it note. You could stamp it on like printer paper. A very thin printer paper works well. You would need to use some kind of temporary adhesive on the back of it. But let me tell you what happened. This I mean, it took me a very long time to fussy cut this image because I had to cut around all these teeny tinies. So what I did, I made another card with the same background, but I didn't have to cut around all the teeny tinies. I just basically, this bottom leaf here is actually stamped, and then these are stamped and fussy cut, and then I punched out the little ladybug. That's from Hello Ladybug to make this card. So we'll walk through how I did this background. It's really, really super simple, as long as you don't use a complicated stamp. But honestly, it was worth it. After I fussy cut the mat, put it over the top of my image, and then stamped my background, it was well worth it for the results. But let me show you. Here is the actual background right here. This is Pumpkin Pie, Mango Melody, and Daffodil Delight. And here I have that leaf, the mask of that leaf. I just stamped it on masking paper and fussy cut it, and it was much easier to fussy cut than that flower. And now we're going to just take our same stamps. I want to make sure, I don't think that ink is all off of there. But this time I'm only going to use one of them, and it's the one I called the Sky. That's the one we'll use. Just make sure. Yep, I think so. So we'll start off with Pumpkin Pie. Some of these things out of here. Ink the stamp up. And it's up to you. You can leave it full strength. You can stamp off if you like, and then do the second generation. Just put this near the top. And stamped. And now I need to clean my stamp, because we're going to move on to Mango Melody. Some of you may have preferred to start with the at the bottom, which you could have flipped it and started at the bottom with the Daffodil Delight if you like. But I think this is fine. It just works for me, but you do what works for you, because that's the best way to stamp, is doing what works for you. There's our Mango Melody. Stamp it off, line it up, stamp down, lift it up, and clean off the stamp. And then we'll move on to the Daffodil Delight. Get our stamp inked up here. Better close the Mango Melody, or I will have that on everything. And then, once again, we just stamp. Again, if you overlap a little, it doesn't matter. It's just fine. And then we proceed to take off our mask. And I have used this mask more, I don't know how much. But what I forgot to do here is I forgot to stamp the image. Oh, my poor mask. It's sticking. I think you get the idea, though. We'll just pretend that image is stamped there, and that my mask isn't having such a hard time coming off. Oh my goodness, I've never had that happen before. Oh well. Now we know what can happen. Yeah, I didn't even have my leaf stamp out here on my table. But there you go, and then you can see how you would go about finishing up the card, because we would just, have stamped our image there and then cut out 2 more leaves and put our ladybug on there. But that is how I did that background, by just using one of the stamps for these 2 cards. Now we'll clean this off and we'll move on to the next card. just right here, and this is a smaller rectangle. It's cut with a smaller stitch rectangle die, and I basically did the exact same thing that I did for this background. The only difference is I used, no, I think I did. I used the same, I used the sky stamp for it. But then I just cut out a smaller portion. I added some die cuts and a birthday wishes, little ribbon, and put it on dimensionals over a background and have a pretty little card there. So that's how I did that background. And now for the final one, it was really easy. Again, I used the sky right there. But then what I did, I simply used two of the backgrounds, the sky and the ocean, only this time the ocean is grass. So let's give that one a quick look. Just want to make sure I've got this all. There we go. So we'll take our cardstock. And once again, we're going to use some of the Balmy Blue. Ink it up. Stamp it. I think this time I'll just go full strength. And then we will clean that off, but we are going to get our ocean, which will now serve as grass. And this time, now I can use my old olive that I've been trying to use all along here. And I stamped. And then, oh, you know what? I think that's Pear Pizzazz actually, but that's okay. We're going to use old olive. It really wants to get in here. And then, see this one I stamped with the straight edge along the sky. Well, now I'm going to flip it and stamp here. And then that gave me enough. So when I die cut it, I have my sky and my grass. I simply added my mountains and my die cut trees and a happy birthday down here. And this I did the exact same way as I did. Here, let's bring these cards back in. On this one, I just put adhesive on the back and just wrap that around. So we get all these things out of here. Those are just some ideas for some backgrounds from one of my scene building stamps. And like I said, Stampin' Up! Has a few of those. And there are some that are retired as well. And these two. So, on my blog, there is a corresponding blog post to this video. And that is where you will find supply lists, cutting measurements, and more information about these cards. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, stamp happy.